There are a lot of questions around the Ryzen IMC and compatible RAM. Since launch, and considering this is a really new launch, expectations were high for overall performance, and so far Ryzen has really lived up to the task. However, one of the key issues that needs to be discussed is RAM selection, because currently there's a whole lot of variables. Things like RAM speed, capacity, latency, not to mention the type of RAM and manufacturer will play in a role in how stable and the type of performance you can really achieve with these kits. So what kits work best, and how do they perform? Let's go and find out. So to start things off, there's been a lot of discussion around the IMC on Ryzen and how touchy it can be. This, in reality, is to be expected with such a young architecture. I mean, just think back to the X99 days. All new chip architecture goes through some sort of growing pains. AMD's been really aggressive with their updates. I mean, we've already got new microcode in the most new beta BIOS, and there's more to come in May, so we can probably expect even more RAM improvement across the board here. So to test this out, we're leveraging 3 different RAM kits with 3 different speeds, latency, and ultimately 3 different ICs. So to kick this off, our test system is a Ryzen 1700 clocked at 3.9 GHz using 1.375 volts. The board of choice is the Asus Crosshair 6 Hero using the newest beta BIOS of 0083. Now, as a disclaimer, we don't recommend the use of beta BIOS, and depending on the board vendor, only official BIOS found on your board manufacturer's website will keep the board under warranty. So now, while beta BIOSes may have some improvements, they're usually implemented in the official BIOS that your board vendors push out frequently when they become available. So onto our 3 kits. First is our 32 gig G.Skill Ripjaws V, which is a dual rank kit spec'd at 3200 MHz CL16, and it has Hynix ICs. The second of our kits is our first of 2 16 gig kits, which is the Trident Z RGB. It's a single rank kit, 3200 MHz CL16, and that rocks Samsung E-die. Now our last kit is a beast. It's a G.Skill Trident Z RGB single rank kit, 16 gigs, 3600 MHz at CL16, and this rocks Samsung B-die ICs. So let's jump right into testing. So our tests are going to be run through Cinebench just to see how Ryzen scales with capacity and latency, as well as stressing RAM and CPU with the 63-second 4K render using Adobe Premiere. So first up is the Ripjaws. Ryzen to date doesn't seem to like Hynix ICs right now, as most of these mid to low latency kits are all dual rank and therefore a bit locked when it comes to memory speed. With this kit, despite all of the attempts, we can only get it to post stable at 2066, regardless of the voltage that we threw into it. I mean, this kit ended up posting respectable 1661 on Cinebench and a render time of 2 minutes and 47 seconds, so this will serve as our baseline for all upcoming challengers. Next up is the 3200 CL16 kit, the 16 gigs. The Samsung E-die ICs are probably able to run at spec speeds, but not at the latency that we expect them to be, and we were only to get these stable at CL18 instead of the rated CL16. Here though, we do see a bit of a dip in Cinebench due to capacity and latency posting a 1649, and matching our 32 gig kit in render time of 2 minutes and 47 seconds. What is really interesting, however, is that the render times usually scale better with more RAM, so maybe we can chalk this up to better performance from Ryzen with faster RAM. Next is our beastly 3600 CL16 kit. Now this one was a lot of fun. These are single rank B-die kits, and we were able to run these at spec, so 3600 CL16 but at 1.4 volts on the RAM instead of 1.35. The bump in speed while maintaining latency results in an extra 30 points or so in Cinebench, registering a score of 1673, but most impressively, we dropped our render time by about 12 seconds, posting a time of 235. A really strong showing here for the B-die kit, which got me thinking. Let's see if I can get these running at 3200 with as tight as possible timings. So after a lot of tuning, we settled on 3200 MHz at CL14 at stock volts. Now the surprising thing is that it pretty much equaled the speed on Cinebench at 1670 and posting a rendering time of 237. So we dropped a little bit, but could we have found a sweet spot? And just to complicate matters, I decided to do both of the RGB kits and combine them to make one 32 gig kit, hoping to see if we can net out with 32 gigs and 3200 MHz. However, much like the dual rank kit, using 4 DIMMs, you pretty much hit a wall when it comes to speed. Regardless of the volts that you threw into the kit, it was nearly impossible to get anything faster than 2666. The impact of using the 4 kits was obviously evident, with the lowest Cinebench score of 1651 and the slowest rendering time of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So in reality, what does this all mean? Well, if you want to sum it up, Ryzen is pretty picky when it comes to speeds and ultimately the ICs that it wants to work well with. Mixing different ICs isn't going to work well at all, and quite frankly, dual rank kits like the Ripjaws that we use with Hynix ICs are still limited. However, when we look at Samsung B-die kits like the G.Skill 3600 CL16 kit, these things just work like magic and seem to work incredibly well with Ryzen. It's also pretty evident as well that Ryzen performance scales as we looked at overall speed increases, and ultimately this is due to the speed of the Infinity Fabric. So this is the interconnect between the DRAM and the CPU cores, and it scales at DRAM speed. So let's say 3600, and the Infinity Fabric will run at 1800 megahertz. So basically, this proves that as the architecture moves to reach maturity and becomes more stable with higher RAM speeds, the faster Ryzen will become outside of just a standard overclock. So if you're looking to build a Ryzen 7 or even a Ryzen 5 system, the best RAM kits that you can buy right now to get the most out of your chip will be Samsung B-die ICs. Usually these are the faster speeds like 3000 megahertz and up with lower latency like a 3200 CL14 kit or a 3600 CL16 kit. So guys, if you have any questions about what RAM will work best in your system, leave those down in the comments. I'll be watching and I'll try to answer them as much as possible. Smash that like button if you want more videos just like this. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button to be one of the first in the world to know when our videos go live. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in and spending a bit of your day with us. Cheers everyone, have a great Easter weekend if you celebrate it. We'll see you this weekend because we got one more video coming up, and we'll see you in the next one.